This video contains everything you need to know about Labubus. I'll tell you how to get real ones, how to spot fake ones, and lots of cheap and easy DIYs that won't damage your doll. The very first question is obviously how to get a Labubu. This depends on where you live because PopMart has different apps and selling methods across the world. The short answer is that you can only be guaranteed a real Labubu from a PopMart shop, which might involve entering a raffle, from a RoboShop vending machine, through the PopMart app, through PopMart's TikTok shop live streams, or through licensed resellers. Licensed stockists are typically big established stores like Selfridges and Harrods in London, or the drugstore chain Müller in Germany and Austria. Your local mobile phone shop is not going to be an official PopMart stockist, so please be careful not to get scammed. If you can simply walk into a store and buy a Labubu from a big pile, then you have to assume it's fake, also known as a Lafufu. There are lots of ultra-realistic fakes going around, and if you're okay with having one, then that's completely fine. Just don't let anyone trick you into thinking you're buying a real one when it's almost certainly not going to be that. If you really want to try the secondhand market, the website StockX tends to be most reputable for collectors selling their duplicate Labubus alongside the subreddit called Labubu Swap. If you want to buy online, then you have to do it through the PopMart app or their official Amazon store. This was how I got my set of Big Into Energy a few weeks ago. I live in Austria, so not everything here might apply to other versions of the app. Right now, it's actually possible to pre-order these, but with a very late dispatch date. When the app has new restocks, you'll see a time and date on the front page. Shortly before the restock, there's a countdown timer on the product page. You can already place the product in your cart, but you won't be allowed to check out. So what you want to do is stay on this page while the timer is on the last 10 seconds and continuously refresh and hit this button until it lets you check out. Immediately after a restock, the app often crashes or displays the item as sold out. If this happens, don't give up and check back a bit later. New products become available the entire hour after a restock, so a lot of people manage to buy theirs 20, 30, or even 40 minutes after the drop. This is another tip for people living in Austria and Germany which don't have an official PopMart store yet. The biggest licensed retailer is Müller, and they stock the Have a Seat and Macaron Labubus. A guy who works there has told me that they've already pre-ordered hundreds of units, but unfortunately they don't know the arrival time because of very high demand. In some Müllers, they only keep it behind the counter and is limited to one per customer. In the shop I went to, it looks like they've already made shelf space here and they're just waiting for the stock. If you're lucky enough to make an order from their online shop, then you have to film yourself unboxing it. This is not for social media hype, but because PopMart items sometimes get stolen or replaced during transit. If you need to contact customer service, then you have to prove that your parcel was unopened when you got it, and that any mistake with the order inside wasn't your fault. Fortunately, mine arrived perfectly fine. One of the key features from the Big Into Energy series is this holographic part, which contains a distinct linear pattern. It looks almost like light rays shooting across the text. This same pattern is also found on the front of all the boxes. This is one of the easiest ways that you can tell apart real and fake Big Into Energy Labubus. Fake boxes only have a flat holographic effect, or nothing at all. For the purpose of this video, I also ordered several Lafufus from AliExpress. To be honest, these look so cursed that you don't have to be an expert to tell that they're fake. But there are some extremely realistic Lafufus as well, and some versions even manage to fake the barcode. As you might know, each Labubu comes with an authentication number that can be checked via the QR code. Let's authenticate the real one, which involves scratching off this foil from the back. Mine somehow peeled away, but I can still read the numbers backwards. Once you scan the QR code, you get to this site, which has a popmart.com URL at the top. If you enter the code, then it'll show you that the Labubu is genuine. Now I'm scanning the code from a Lafufu, and this actually takes me to the same website. This page looks a bit confusing, and some people might simply assume that seeing this means it's real. However, there isn't an authentication code to enter, and if you try going further, then it just doesn't work. Another common difference between real and fake is the inside of the foil packaging. The real ones have a matte interior, and the fake ones have a shiny interior. The shininess makes it look a bit cheaper, and that's basically the rule of thumb when trying to spot Lafufus. Everything looks a bit less polished, such as a wobbly head, asymmetrical ears, or badly printed teeth. The eye is another easy place to spot differences. Real big into energy Labubus have the white area of the eye printed on a plastic chip above the glittery bit. This means you can see a drop shadow where the white part meets the iris. Fake Labubus tend to have everything in the eye printed together, and it's covered by a clear lens, similar to a stuffed animal or doll eye. More details to look for is that real Labubus have hands that are attached to a wire, and they can also stand up. If you try hard enough, you should be able to make most Labubus stand without any support. Finding that balance with the Lafufu is a lot harder because of their poor construction. Of course, this doesn't mean that any doll which can stand is real, so you have to take all the factors into consideration. There was a viral video on Chinese social media where someone X-rayed a Labubu. This image was the result, and I had to double check it myself. I only have access to a dental X-ray, so it was hard to get the same field of vision, and we had some artifacts going on, but you can clearly see that the real one does indeed have a wire connecting both hands. The fake ones have hands that are just loosely sewn onto the arm. This also means that real Labubus have arms which can bend, and they're also posable to some extent. You don't need an X-ray to determine this because you can easily feel the wires inside the arm. If the hands are floppy, then it's fake, but if you can bend them into different positions, then it's most likely real. Now I want to clear up a few common myths I've seen online. You cannot determine whether a Labubu is real or not based on the size of the tag, because this often changes even within the same set. The same goes for any slight asymmetry in the body shape or minor errors like visible stitching around the face. At the end of the day, these are just novelty keyrings that cost less than your average plushie. These are not luxury products, so they won't have an insane quality check to ensure that every single stitch is hidden. Another topic that sometimes comes up is UV authentication. The first series of Have a Seat Labubus had a secret symbol on their foot that was only visible under UV light. This is also why many fake versions have this weird Labubu-shaped plastic piece in the foot. This was changed to glowing teeth for the Macron Labubus and nothing at all for the big into energy ones. The secret mark also changes between different limited editions, so on the whole, UV testing isn't a reliable method unless you happen to have one from the right series. So now we've covered all the basics, it's time to get into DIYs. The easiest and most obvious one is literally on the official artwork. If you look closely, Loyalty is holding a pipe cleaner key and Luck is holding a flower. In this image, Loyalty is holding a needle felt heart, and the entire scene seems to be taking place on a felted rainbow. I'm starting with the cheapest pipe cleaners from a kid's crafting set. I'm bending the yellow one into a heart shape and then turning it into a key. Then I'm just placing it into Loyalty's hand and I've replicated the official image. To make the flower, I'm bending a white pipe cleaner into 5 petals and extending it downwards a bit so I can attach it to the stem. Then I'm cutting off a tiny section of yellow and gluing it into place. I'm making one leaf on the stem and Luck's accessory is also done. Now we can move on to clothing. The easiest and cheapest method is just to use hair scrunchies. A large scrunchie like this one can be easily used as a dress, and the bonus is that it covers up the tag as well. I'm really not a big fan of visible tags, but I think it's become taboo to cut them off a Labubu. Even though this clearly has a dotted line showing that you can remove it, it seems like everyone prefers to keep the tags on. So the next best option is to hide it under some clothing. These smaller scrunchies are perfect for making accessories like hairbands or belts. I recommend getting this kind with loose scrunched fabric because they're much easier to sew onto. If you wrap it around the face like this, you can easily add decorations to turn it into a flower crown, a ribbon, or animal ears. I'm going to use these ready-made cat ears, but you can easily make your own ears with fabric or felt. The most important part of this DIY is to work while the scrunchie is on the Labubu. If you're sewing something on like this, then you want the elastic to be stretched to the perfect width. If you do this with a loose scrunchie, then there's no guarantee that it will fit over the face or if the ears are going to look symmetrical. I'm using a ladder stitch here, which is a common technique from making sock plushies. Simply alternate one horizontal stitch on the hairband and one on the cat ear. Then tie a knot and exit from another place so your thread is hidden. This is probably the easiest yet cutest DIY that you can make for a Labubu, which also won't damage the doll in any way. Now I'm going to make a mermaid Labubu tail. This is loosely inspired by the limited edition Merbubu, but I also think is a good DIY to hide the tags and protect the bottom part of your doll from damage. Start with a fluffy sock and turn it inside out. Draw the shape of a mermaid tail in the front. Now backstitch along the line, which is 1 stitch forward and half a stitch back. This is also a common sock plush making technique, and I've linked the whole playlist below if you're interested in learning more. Cut the tail out and flip it the right way around. Wrap a scrunchie around the body and pull the sock until you just see the edge of the fabric peeking out from behind. Just like before, I'm going to sew the sock onto the scrunchie while it's on the Labubu. You don't have to worry about accidentally sewing into the Labubu because the body is pretty solid, so the chances of a needle going through is almost zero. You're mostly working on top of the fur, which won't affect the stitches. Once you've sewn your way around the tail, simply roll the scrunchie upwards to hide the seam. To make the fins, I'm going to use some needle felt. I'm starting out with a round shape and then folding over the edges and felting them until everything becomes more compact. You can of course make this with fabric, but I like the sculptural quality of needle felt. I find it easier for small details that have to be quite symmetrical because you have a very good control over the final shape and size. Once this is done, I'm sewing it onto the tail and it's time to dress our mermaid. This already looks adorable, but I want to accessorize it a bit. I found a set of adjustable children's rings and these fit perfectly over the ears. You can just stack them however you like and it won't leave any permanent marks on your Labubu. This final DIY is the only one which is permanent, but I love the effect so much that I don't mind. This is of course diamond teeth. I've seen lots of people do this on social media, but it's usually very complicated and requires professional nail art equipment and UV lamps. My version is much easier and virtually foolproof. You simply need some E6000 glue and a diamond painting pen. These pens come with any diamond painting kit and you can get really cheap small ones from discount stores. E6000 is the best glue because it sticks well to vinyl and dries fully transparent. Unlike superglue, it stays tacky for about 10 minutes, so you can work in peace without having to rush. The best place to get these diamonds is from any nail art supply shop. You can buy loads of them very cheaply, and you want to have a selection of very small ones with slightly different diameters. Apply some E6000 onto a tooth and spread it out with a toothpick. Pick up one of the diamonds and press it into place. For each tooth, you'll need 3 diamonds in a triangle shape. Some of the teeth are big enough for another tiny diamond in the corner. This entire process only takes 10 to 15 minutes, and the final result looks so cool. If you wear your Labubu out and about, then many people find that it gets dirty quickly. You can get clear plastic carry cases or just improvise with your own. I randomly found this set of makeup bags which seem ideal for storing or displaying Labubus. Just keep your eyes open and you'll be able to see a lot of packaging that can do the job. Last but not least is a hack on how to hang your Labubu so it always faces out. Instead of sliding the ring around your bag, pull it down the ribbon like this. Now push the ribbon through a hook on your bag and slide the ring through the fabric loop. This keeps it attached without bouncing around. But bear in mind that these official PopMart keyrings are notorious for coming apart by accident. If you really want to safeguard your Labubu, then you have to secure it with your own carabiner. I hope this video is useful, and now you know more about Labubus than most people. As a final bit of trivia, many people jokingly talk about going to China to get a Labubu, but it's actually even harder there. Labubus do cost about 30% less in China, but they're extremely popular and there are far more people trying to get their hands on them. The chances of walking into a shop and buying one is basically zero, and this includes the Popland theme park in Beijing. You need a lot of planning and patience, just like everywhere else. I'm Joanna. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!